For the semester 2 final exam review for geometry, I'm going to go through and I'm going to probably split it up in 2 videos, but we'll see kind of how the time goes. So number 1, about 27 of every 147 apples at Anderson Orchard are rotten. If 7,203 apples were picked in 1 week, about how many apples were rotten? So you're setting up a proportion. So we're saying 27 rotten apples out of the total 147 equals the unknown rotten apples out of 7,203. And this time we'll just do multiplying across, like cross products. So 147 times x, and then 27 times 7203 is 194,481, and if we divide that by 147, we would get 1,323 rotten apples. The question on the final is very similar, but has to do with like left-handed people versus just people. But you know, you're setting up proportions, very similar. In number 2, Mr. Jones is 5 feet tall, and he casts a shadow of 10 feet. At the same time of day, a flagpole casts a shadow of 30 feet. Find the height of the flagpole. So the height of this flagpole would be x. Okay, so now we are going to set up 10 over 5 equals 30 over x. You can set up this very many ways. I could compare like small shadow over the longer shadow. So you could set it up like this, 10 over 30. Go back to the small one, 5 over x. Okay, either way, it would come out the same answer. So I'm going to get 10x, and that would be 150. And 150 divided by 10 is 15. Alright, number 3. Here it actually tells you how to set this up, and then it has you find EA. So please note that you're going to have to find EC first, but then you have to find EA. So there's a little bit of trickiness there. Alright, so for AB, we have 27. For BD, over 9. And then this would equal AC, which is 12, over CE, which is x. So cross multiply. 9 times 12, we get 108 divided by 27. Oh, I just did it. So if x is 4, 4 plus 12 is 16, and that equals EA, segment EA. For number 4, if EB is parallel to DC, find the length of ED. Alright, so here we have, I'm going to go with 8 over x equals 10 over 45. So I would have 10x, and then 8 times 45 is 360. And if we divide by 10, that would give us 36. And that is the length of ED. That's what it's asking for, ED. So ED is 36. Alright, number 5. Find the value of x round to the nearest tenth. This should say A. Alright, so I'm going to go with A over 12. So this is A over this 12 equals 12 over 22. So the top is the small triangle. We're comparing it to the similar length in the other triangle, the bigger triangle. So Smaller triangle over bigger triangle. A over 12, 12 over 22. So 22A equals 144, 12 times 12. 144 divided by 22 is 6.54, rounded to the nearest tenth. 6.5. All right, number 6. Let me see if we've got. Okay, 6 through 10 is all of unit 8. Okay, and this is when we did the trig stuff. And we talked about this right here, Sakatoa. And I told you guys that little saying, some old hippie came around here tripping over apples. And that's just to help you remember Sakatoa. But really, what does that do for us or help us with our trig? So the S means your sine, and that's opposite over hypotenuse. Okay, so that's one. The next one is cosine, so cosine equals adjacent over hypotenuse. And then lastly, T is tangent, and that's opposite over adjacent. Okay? Now, after each one of the words sine, cosine, and tangent, your angle measure goes right in here. Okay? So let's put it to the test. So in number 6, from the angle given, what do you have? So from 38, your S is the opposite. Here's your right angle, so you know that this one right here, this length, is your hypotenuse, which means that the 19 is the other segment next to 38. If it's next to, it's adjacent. Okay, I know that this is also next to 38, but it's across from the right angle, so it's hypotenuse. So if I look at the three lengths here, I don't need this one. I don't have a variable there, I don't have a number. So if I'm looking at opposite and adjacent, O and A has to be tangent. So I would say tangent of the angle given equals opposite, which is S, over 19. To solve for S, we have to multiply both sides by 19. Okay, now, we could do that in the calculator. Okay, I posted on here that there is a free app. So this is what the app looks like right here. There is a special name for it, and that is on the lesson page. So here, if you go to mode, just like our normal calculator, you can see that it's already in degree setting for you. If it's not, you would just click this, set it into degree setting, and go from there. Alright, so now if I have to put this in, I would go 19 times tangent of 38, enter, and I would get 14.84. Rounding to the nearest tenth makes this 14.8. Okay, now moving on to number 7. Still going to be using trig functions. So find the value of x, round to the nearest tenth. So again, from here, I'm going to go with this being the hypotenuse because it's across from the right angle. Okay. This side length would be your opposite, and x would be your adjacent. Okay, we don't need the opposite. So if we're looking for A and H, we're looking right here at cosine. Cosine of the angle would be x over 23. Now, we're going to multiply both sides by 23. And I go back to there. Okay, I'm going to hit clear, and I'm going to do 23 times cosine of 42. Enter. We have 17.09. And so this would give us 17.1. Okay, number 8. From the 37, the opposite is 15. The hypotenuse would be your x, and this length is your adjacent, but we don't need it. Okay, so opposite, hypotenuse. So that would be sine of 37, and you'd have 15 over x. So this one takes a couple steps. So one, we're going to multiply both sides by x. Cancel that out. Now I've got x times sine 37 equals 15. To get x by itself, you have to divide by sine 37. Okay, now, going back, let's try to get the glare off there. So I cleared out. I'm going to do 15 divided by sine 37, and we get 24.92, but that rounds to 24.9. Okay. Number 9. This one is a little bit different. It says, using trig functions, find the measure of the missing angle. Now, they just put a question mark there just because starting to solve an equation, I'm going to make this x. So x is our unknown. Alright, now we're going to go with, from this angle we have the opposite, then we have the adjacent, then we have the hypotenuse. We don't need the opposite, so A and H would be cosine. So cosine of x, that we don't know because that's our angle. For adjacent, we would say 16 over 26. And in this problem, when you're trying to find the angle, we use the inverse. So we say cosine inverse of that fraction is going to equal x. So in our calculator like this, we would use the second button. And that would give us that -1. So I did second cosine. Okay. Same thing can occur here. So I would go second cosine. I got my cosine -1. Put my fraction in, 16 divided by 26. Enter. And that's going to be 52.02. But it says round to the nearest 10, so that's really going to be 52.0 or 52 degrees. Okay. And number 10 is set up pretty much the same way. Since you're finding the angle measure, from that angle you've got the opposite, you've got the adjacent, and hypotenuse, which you don't need. And it looks like for O and A we use tangent. Okay. So I use O and A, tangent. So tangent of the angle equals opposite over adjacent. So we're going to use that inverse. So tan inverse of that fraction let's try it out here. We've got second tan, 55 divided by 35, and that's 57.5, and that is degrees. Okay, so basically every 5 problems is a different unit. So 1 through 5 is unit 7, and then 6 through 10 is unit 8. So we've covered unit 7 and unit 8 so far. Okay. I am going to do a new video for the next page.